Hey, I'm Natalie. I'm scientist with heart, and I'm a scientist and educator. And if you are also teaching, you might also know the situation that you ask a question during your lecture and the room goes silent. I have another video addressing how to make students talk, but this video is more about the questions itself. It might be that the question that you're asking is not inviting the students to think, and that's why you have such low engagement. Asking questions is also a skill that has to be learned, and sometimes it helps to have a catalog at hand that you can pick from. In this video, I will give you a catalog of 10 types of questions that help you make the students talk. Because they want to talk, they want to discuss, they want to learn, they want to understand. These are tools, and you can pick what you like and what fits to your lecture and try it out for yourself. Number 1, start with a concept, not a fact. Instead of asking for a definition, ask about the idea behind. What does this concept actually help us explain? Why does this matter in the real world? Number 2, ask for interpretation. Let the students explain what they think something means. How would you explain this with your own words? You could ask them. Or, what's the main message of this diagram, of this model, of this process? Let them explain. Number 3, use what would happen if. This works exceptionally good in science education. Why? Because the students have to think of everything they know as a system. And that's exactly what science is, what biology is, right? It's a system, it's everything balanced, everything is interconnected with each other. What would happen if this variable would change? If this process failed, what would be the downstream effect? Number 4, you might have heard me before talk about real-world connections, but you can use it also in questions to the students instead of telling them the real-world connection. You ask them to connect theory with reality. Where would you see this in practice? Can you think of an example for this in medicine, in ecology, in lab work, in daily life? Number 5, ask for comparison. Learning happens when we make connections in our brain. And it helps to learn something new by connecting it to something we already know. So ask them to make comparisons. How is this what we just learned and discussed different from the last concept we talked about? How is it similar? Which is more important? Is it structure or is it function? Compared to the enzyme we talked about last week. Number 6, ask for reasoning and not just an answer. So if you ask a question and the answer is a fact or a feature or something, you can ask the follow-up question, what makes you think that? How did you arrive at this conclusion? And so you'll let the students then explain in their own words and reason and not just give the one answer. So you have to dig a little bit. Number 7, ask for predictions. Sometimes it makes a lot of sense to get the students involved before the answer is revealed. What do you think will happen next? Which result would you expect if we change this feature of the system now? Number 8. How do I show 8? Number 8. It is asking for uncertainty. This is especially interesting for scientific education because in our daily life as researchers, we always deal with uncertainty. Our research is aimed towards the unknown, so we never know 100% what's coming, what's waiting for us. So you can ask the open question, which part of this is still unclear? And if the students are hesitant, mostly people don't like to admit that they don't understand something, or at least they don't like to be the first one admitting. You can reframe it and you can say, which part of this concept is the most difficult to understand and follow? If you explain the concept, you can also ask, where is this concept very strong, supported by solid facts, and where may be some more weaker points? What do you think? So that's also a type of uncertainty, not uncertainty on the side of the knowledge and the understanding, but uncertainty within a concept. A good example here is, for example, the endosymbiont theory. I have it included in my mitochondrial decline and aging lecture. So you can use this theory, which is broadly accepted based on some facts and causalities, to ask this question. Where is it maybe weak, or where might critics come in and say, well, it's a theory, it's not a fact. Number 9, ask for trade-offs. This works really well because the real world problems usually involve tension. We could ask, what do we gain with this approach and what do we lose? For example, if we teach methods, if we teach molecular methods, high throughput methods, designing experiments, bioanalytics, we always make a decision of what we want to look for and what we prioritize, and then usually some feature is either neglected or based on the experimental setup, we lose information. So we can ask the students really to rephrase and say this out loud. What's the trade-off for having a beautiful proteomics data set depicting this or that? So basically you can discuss the benefit and the cost. And you can ask this, what is the benefit of enriching for phosphopeptides before the proteomics experiment, and what is the cost? And then you can start a whole discussion about how to design experiments based on your aim of your goal of what you want to really see with these experiments. And the final one, number 10, is a game changer. I use it always in my courses, in my lab courses, when we have hands-on group work, when I let them draw flip chart papers in groups. And I always mention this. Imagine how you would teach this to someone, a classmate, a colleague, coming in late, and you have to get them all the information that you already learned until now. How would you explain all of this to a classmate that has zero idea, that just came in? And what is the simplest version of this idea we just discussed? So these were 10 types of questions that you may consider including into your next educational sessions. All of these questions work. Why? They work because they make the students think. These questions allow the students to really participate in the lesson, in your educational unit. And that's when real learning happens. So I would summarize it like this. If you want the students to talk, stop asking questions with a one-word answer. Ask questions that give the opportunity to students to think, to talk, and reduce those questions that only reward memory. Memory is the basis for everything, but then at some point you want to include critical thinking. And that starts with thinking and talking, and the part with the critical thinking that you can then add on top. Better questions create thinking, thinking creates talking, talking creates discussion. And that's what education is all about. That's the basis of critical thinking. So make the students connect things, explain things, and predict things. And then you also, as an educator, get a very good picture about the level of education that the students have in your field that you try to teach. And very important, the key is not to now bombard the students with questions all the time. Pick 2 that are fitting to the type of lecture that you give, that fit to your style of teaching, and include them in your next lecture. And then evaluate how it all went. You will also very quickly experience that if you change the type of question, you will also change the type of discussion you will get and the type of conversation that you have with the students. So use this. Try it out next time when you go into the lecture hall. I hope this was helpful. If it was, don't forget to like, subscribe, maybe leave a comment about your experiences with asking questions in the classroom. And I would be very happy to see you here again. I'm Scientist with Heart. My mission is to help you teach better. If you're a beginner educator, you're really at the right place. I'm here to help you teach with more impact, and all this step by step, one step at a time. Thanks for watching and happy teaching!